Hello, Mark from the Templin Institute here. I'd like to thank My Name is Bife for allowing us to access his channel and share our technical breakdown and history of the mythical weapon of Gjallarhorn. The Templin Institute investigates every manner of alternate worlds, so if you'd like to see more of our investigations, you'll find a link in the description.
In the lost eras of antiquity, when the great ash of Yggdrasil wove its roots throughout the world and heaven across a tapestry of man's past, present, and future, a terrible battle was foretold. An age of calamities and woe when the gods themselves would perish and another world would arise, fertile and new. The watchmen of the gods stood on the edge of heaven, looking for the signs of this coming war, looking for the onset of Ragnarok. And when the time finally arrived, he would raise his mighty trumpet, whose blast was heard throughout every world, and shake the roots of Yggdrasil itself. In the age of the city, the last bastion of humanity and the light, it might be said that Ragnarok has come and gone. The Golden Age has vanished, few of the old gods remain, and the world outside the city's walls is new and terrible. But though much has been lost and little persists, the coming of war is still heralded by a blast heard throughout every world, a terrible roar spoken in the language of fire. It comes not from a trumpet, but from a sword of the light, a weapon that bears the ancient name of Gjallarhorn. Reduced down to its basic characteristics, the Gjallarhorn is a missile launcher, similar in functionality to many others that exist today across the city. It is a shoulder-mounted weapon system, capable of firing an explosive projectile that detonates upon impact. Its major components consist of a 1.2-meter-long launch tube, which houses and protects the missile within. This launch tube is flanked vertically by the weapon's two other major components. Fixed dorsally is sensor networks that relay information to the missile's guidance system. The weapon is also breech-loaded through this upper component. Attached ventrally is the weapon's grip and trigger mechanism, which extends outwards to suitably balance its weight. A smaller subcomponent is mounted on the launch tube's left side, which contains a command launch unit and sighting system. The Gjallarhorn is capable of firing the 8.4 kilogram multi-warhead standard to the city, but its most distinctive feature is its unique ability to make use of Wolfpack rounds. Immediately after detonation, a cluster of submunitions separate from the primary missile, each capable of independent tracking and guidance. Wolfpack rounds amplify the already intense explosive effect of the detonation, further damaging the primary target or splitting outwards to impact on nearby secondary targets. While these base facts relay the extraordinary capabilities of the weapon, it cannot be measured by its performance alone. The Gjallarhorn was intended by the man who created it to be the answer to the question, if there is beauty in destruction, why not also in its delivery? The Gjallarhorn's design is iconic, every bit a work of art, as it is a missile launcher. Interwoven across its exterior are 16 wolves, often symbolically linked within the city to both the Guardians, the Traveler, and the Light. They have been masterfully and meticulously sculpted onto everything from the prow of the weapon's sensor component, to the grip, to the rings that lock the firing mechanism into place. The wolf imagery is supplemented by oak leaves, an ancient symbol of wisdom, strength, and endurance. Together, these flourishes not only make the weapon an exotic reminder of the golden age of mankind, but a link to the memory of the city and its defenders. The history of the Gjallarhorn is intertwined and inseparable from that of the Guardians themselves, from the Iron Lords that purged the first risen warlords from the earth, to all those that followed. It was the Guardians who led the defense of the city during the Battle of the Twilight Gap, in which the leading houses of the Alien Fallen united to capture the Traveler. If the Traveler was lost, the light would be swallowed by the dark, and so for days uncounted, the armies of the Last City threw back the Fallen atop its walls. Many weapons and guardians entered a pantheon of legends during the Battle of the Twilight Gap, but many more were lost to Earth. To honor those who had fallen, not only during the Twilight Gap, but every guardian back to the Iron Lords themselves, Faisal Crux, eponymous with one of the city's famous weapons foundries, began crafting what was to be his greatest work. He walked the battlefields of the Twilight Gap, collecting the armor of those who had fallen there. Armor still imbued, it is rumored, with a bit of the light of the Traveler itself. This armor was melted down and reforged, transformed into the foundation of the peerless weapon that Crux named the Yalorhorn. Any who carried it would be a true successor to the Iron Lords, honoring the defenders of the Twilight Gap and every warrior to have ever laid down their lives in the defense of the city. Immediately upon entering the arsenal of the city, the Yalorhorn was recognized as one of the most powerful weapons that could be wielded by a single Guardian. It was fired in anger by many of the city's most distinguished defenders, and even for a brief moment fell into the hands of Xur, a mysterious agent believed to hail from the realms of the Nine. In time, the legend of the Yalorhorn grew, both within the city and outside its borders. If every story can be believed, the weapon was instrumental in the destruction of an Axis mind of the Vex, known as Atheon, times Conflux, deep within the Vault of Glass. It was used in the trial by combat of the fallen Skolas, Kell of Kells, and proved decisive in the slaying of Crota, son of Oryx, ancient prince of the Hive. So prevalent are the stories of Yalorhorn that questions have arisen of just how many were first constructed by Faisal Crux, but whether only a single authentic example exists, or there are in fact multiples, the Yalorhorn is at the very least exceptionally rare. Therefore, repeated attempts have been made to replicate the weapon. The first of these was constructed by a Guardian from Crux's own plans, a flawless recreation of the original design, yet one brought to completion by self-replicating nanotechnology known as Siva. Yet, at least one other variant, known as the Iron Yalorhorn, is now also present within the city's arsenal. Nearly identical, its outer coating is noticeably different, trading the white and gold aesthetic of the original for black and silver. How these weapons came to be, whether they too were constructed by Faisal Crux, or a replication of his initial designs, remains unknown. The lingering mystery surrounding the weapon has only added to its mythic status, one further heightened by the fact that it has seemingly vanished from sight in recent years. Yet, as the enemies of mankind continue to prowl the depths of the solar system, with even the city itself occupied for a time by the enemies of the light, the need for such a weapon has become clear. It may not be long now at all until a horn is again sounded in the dark, a blast heard on every world that speaks to the enemy in the language of fire.
Thanks again to My Name is Bife, and I hope you've enjoyed our look into the Yalorhorn. For more investigations into the factions, characters, conflicts, and weapons of alternate worlds, you'll find a link to the Institute in the description. See you Starside, Guardians.